Welcome to Quick Stop F1. My name is Nyasha and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that as we react to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando Norris comes through to defeat Oscar Piastri on the alternate strategy. 1 stop versus 2 stop. God, what a boring ass race until the last few laps. Eh? Wowzers. But if anyone needed that, then it was Lando Norris. So he cuts the lead in the championship for Oscar Piastri down to 9 point single digits. And an incredible race from Lando. You saw him pretty much in 4th place, floundering behind George Russell, who eventually finished 3rd. And he had nothing to lose, really. And I did think during the race, we did a live stream, watching the race live, and we did think that Lando Norris, around the times when obviously Leclerc pitted to make sure he wasn't, Piastri pitted, and obviously Leclerc pitted to make sure he wasn't done by the undercut, and I think George Russell then pitted as well. Lando Norris really had nothing to lose, in all honesty, and I think, you look at the pace of the McLaren, these guys ended up a whole pit stop ahead of the rest of the field with half a race, showing the pace in that McLaren, which they probably weren't able to show, respectively, behind Charles Leclerc and George Russell. But we're looking at a situation with Lando Norris where he had nothing to lose, might as well go for the 1 stop. We saw Fernando Alonso do an incredibly long stint on his medium tyres. There was no reason why the hards couldn't go pretty long themselves. I mean, I think Lewis eventually did around 40, early 40s, maybe like 40, 41, 42 laps on the hard tyre. He had nothing to lose. And then all he had to do was essentially make sure he got through traffic okay. Lewis Hamilton getting lapped, and obviously we will kind of get to Lewis and Ferrari because what a shit show there. But Lando Norris managed to make the strategy work. Nearly some contact with Oscar Piastri. And what does that mean? Going into the summer break, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, we are in for one hell of a title fight. And I'm happy for Lando. I know a lot of people don't like Lando. Comments he's made about Lewis Hamilton in the past, generally just like, I don't think some people like his sense of humour, X, Y, Z. People have their own reasons. But I think that a lot of people had written Lando Norris off. And because Oscar Piastri had been so strong this season, right? But I think this shows in Formula One, you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think as much as we are looking at, the end of this generation of cars, and we're seeing how difficult it is to overtake at some tracks. Fernando Alonso created the dirtiest DRS train I've ever seen. I think a 10-car DRS train Fernando Alonso created, trying to keep his medium tyres alive. Pardon me. Which obviously gave the 4 cars in front of him that kind of window to be able to stop when they did. But I think everyone was under the impression that Oscar Piastri qualifying in 2nd, his race would be with Charles Leclerc, and for a whole, and with Lando losing places at the start again. I think if there's one thing, death taxes Lando Norris losing places at the start. And I think that's something that he definitely needs to work on. And for half a race, you're looking at it like, wow, is this guy going to lose even more points to Oscar Piastri, who I think ostensibly has been the strongest driver on the grid this season, maybe the most consistent driver on the grid this season. So I think for half a race, you're looking at it like, wow, Lando Norris, is this the race which really kind of, going into the summer break, having lost places at the start, potentially, if Piastri, as we now saw in the end, would have jumped like Leclerc, and let's say he wasn't able to get past Russell, let's say that he did just carry on the same strategy as everyone else, who knows what would have happened? Would he have lost even more points? Would he have been able to get past Russell? The pace in the second stint shows they probably would have. But yeah, I think this has swung from us kind of assuming that maybe Lando doesn't have the minerals or doesn't have, the strength to kind of come through. I think today shows, look, he's there and he will be there. It's a 2-horse race. He has a 50% chance of winning. And I think those who wrote him off will maybe wrote him off a little too early. Speaking of going too early, Ferrari. Oh my God, this team. Flattering to deceive. Charles Leclerc ending up in 4th from pole position. I think almost like 35 seconds behind the leaders in the end. 5-second penalty for moving under braking, erratic driving. And I think they were saying Charles Leclerc had a chassis issue which caused his pace deficit. But I think I read a stat somewhere that said Charles Leclerc has converted 1 pole position into a race win from his last 15 pole positions, which kind of just shows that, look, as much as one lap pace that Charles Leclerc has and Ferrari have for the last few seasons, he's not really been able to convert those pole positions into wins. And I think strategy wise with Charles, I think they did everything right. I haven't been able to see Charles Leclerc's interview post race yet, and I will probably address that on the notebook. But let's have a look. I mean, look, this is what Charles Leclerc was saying on the radio. Charles Leclerc, this is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. I would have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium. And obviously a miracle did not come, and George Russell managed to get past him, even with some pretty erratic driving there. So I think they're saying it was a chassis issue. I think they knew about it this morning. Quite what that was, we'll wait and see and try and get some more information. But immediate reaction is, bad day at the office for Ferrari. Really bad day at the office for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton starting 12th, dropping 2 places, and coming through and finishing 12th in the end on an alternate strategy that just didn't work. And I just think operationally, I think this is what I was trying to get across in my video before, that everyone jumped me for, is that this team is going nowhere fast this season. If you're a Ferrari fan, write off this season, okay? This season is done. This team is finished. Can't do anything. Can't build the car right. Can't do strategy right. What I'll give them, fair play, pit stops. But both drivers, in one way or another, are not happy with what they're seeing. People might get at Lewis Hamilton for bringing a dossier document to Ferrari and saying, look, this is not good enough. Maybe these are the things that we can change. In my experience of working for 2 of the biggest teams in F1 history, I know you are the biggest team in terms of historical significance to the sport, but I've worked at 2 other teams who work with more efficiency than you guys, who are currently who have won more than you guys. This is what I would like to kind of show you. People flamed him for that. But then you look at Charles Leclerc and you hear those comments Charles Leclerc makes. These aren't comments that are made in isolation. This isn't a driver who's, no matter where he is, you can say, oh, Lewis Hamilton's finished, this and the other, whatever, and we'll get to Lewis. The enemy is not each other. Like, this infighting, this point scoring between fans is pointless because the car is fucking shite. 36 seconds dropped in half a race. Lewis unable to cut through the pack. Even Max in his Red Bull was able to cut through. This was an all-time Hall of Shame performance from Ferrari, and I just think, what was that strategy? Oh my God. When they took the tyre blankets off and showed Lewis on hard tyres, I was like, oh. But I was like, you know what? Fair play. Let's see what happens. Carlos Sainz, soft tyres at the start, jumps him. Antonelli jumps him, 14th. We're now stuck in the DRS train created by El Plan Fernando Alonso. Then what? Ricardo Adami says the race will come to us. Narrator, it did not come to them. It did not come to them. Lift and coast already. Not even a fucking sixth of the way through the race. Having to lift and coast. My God. What a depressing ass season. And if anyone is going to need a summer break, I'm sure it's Lewis Hamilton. If anyone's going to need a summer break after this, I'm sure it's Charles Leclerc. And let's see. Because I honestly, I don't see this getting better. I see it potentially getting worse before it gets better. I'm not going to lie to you. And, yeah, I just think, we were on the hard tyres for ages. And then, we just were not able to kind of make that hard tyre strategy work. I think because of the DRS train caused in the beginning, we're basically just waiting. And Hamilton was waiting for cars in front of him to pit. And then by the time we come out, you're so far back from everyone else. And then you're just getting into more traffic again. And the tyre offset wasn't enough for him to do anything. Then you've got, Lando Norris coming through and Oscar Piastri coming through. You're getting lapped. That doesn't help. Just an all-round bad day at the office for Ferrari. And lots to think about in Maranello. Well, look, for my predictions, yeah, Lando Norris back on with the title. Ferrari, not great. George Russell's managed to spam another podium again. He's always there. There or abouts. I'd say I actually recorded a notebook yesterday and then my microphone cut out. So I couldn't even upload it. So, but I did say then I think George Russell would get a podium just because when he's there or thereabouts, he does manage to spam a podium and he's there or thereabouts again. Dicey with Charles Leclerc. And I think we saw the desperation from Charles Leclerc trying to keep those places. Oh, yeah! Finally, release the Verstappen tapes. Why do I get replays of absolutely everything that goes on track, but whenever it's Max Verstappen, we can't see a replay? No onboard, no overhead, no nothing. I'm not saying that they did touch or that it was definitely a penalty, but at least allow me to see for myself. Unless I'm bugging or unless my TV feed showed me something different, release the Verstappen tapes. What happened between him and Lewis in turn 4? It's just so weird how, all the time with Verstappen, there's just never any video evidence. There's never any onboards. We can never quite get anything. It all just mysteriously blows up in the air. Again, I'm not saying it definitely was a penalty or it wasn't a penalty. It just would have been nice to see what happened there. So if I have anything to take away from this race, release the Verstappen tapes. But until then, let me go. I'll be back with a notebook to talk about the race in a bit more detail. But until then, no matter what life throws at you, keep it on the black stuff. Until next time, take care.